Good day and welcome to the evening news for today, Monday, May 12, 2014. I'm Avinash Ramzan. Thanks for joining us. In the headlines, Royston King on the investigation for unauthorized tax write-off. Acting town clerk clashes with city councillors. City Hall under siege as Mayor and King try to overthrow Suba's administration. And CXC launches agriculture as New Cape subject here. Now for the news in detail. In this report, you'll hear that local government ministry today threatened to take action against Royston King for acts of insubordination as it announced that he was being investigated in connection with an unauthorized multi-million tax write-off. More in this report.
Local Government and Regional Development Minister Norman Whittaker today confirmed that the ministry has called in the Auditor General to probe a multi-million-dollar tax write-off that was allegedly authorized by the city's Public Relations Officer Royston King, who was purporting to perform the duties of town clerk back in 2012. Whittaker made the disclosure when he met with media operatives today to address the ongoing stalemate at the Georgetown Mayor and the City Council. The tax write-off, which amounts to some 36.2 million Guyana dollars, was granted to Beacon Foundation, the minister reported.
We have asked the Auditor General, but because of the present scenario there, the Auditor General has been unable to access the records. And we have also notified the Commissioner of Police, because we have determined that, one, the letter to which Mr. King affixed his signature, holding out himself as town clerk when he did, is genuine. That's his signature. We are aware that there's no record at the level of this ministry of the then minister ever approving of Mr. Royston King to act as a town clerk. And therefore, we do not know what's the source of his authority then, and we are mindful of what came out here. It came out at a time, this letter writing came out at a time when the mayor and Mr. King were not enjoying the best of work relations. So we are concerned about those things, and very important also, it is the council that has the authority to waive under specific circumstances and not an individual. It is the council. And we have caused checks to be done, and nowhere are we turning up with any minutes of any statutory meeting that affirms that, one, the council did agree to grant waiver to the particular body, capital B, Beacon, and secondly, nowhere are we able to capture any information to the effect that the then Minister of Local Government and Regional Development had approved of Mr. King acting as town clerk during that period.
The matter is still before the courts after the council took the company to court to recoup the taxes. He said the ministry was also probing acts of insubordination being committed by King, which had stemmed from complaints emanating from Mayor Hamilton Green and the current acting town clerk Carl Suba, as well as other officials. Whittaker advised King against his continued involvement in the ploy and attempts to overthrow the legitimate chief executive officer of the council, warning that disciplinary action could be brought against him.
We have asked that an investigation be done with respect not only to the role of Mr. King during this period, but there are several other officers who have been guilty of acts of impropriety, officers who have been guilty of being disrespectful to authority within the council. There's the issue of security at the City Hall, and many of those responsible for security and safety of assets, and by assets I mean human beings too, lives of people, safety of people, staff of the City Council, and those responsible for safeguarding assets, physical assets, the buildings and its furnishings, etc., we have information that suggests that many have been sadly wanted in the terms of the execution of their duties, their legal duties.
The minister is maintaining that the council does not have the power to appoint its own town clerk.
Who notifies the bank? It is the minister who writes the bank. It is the minister who notifies the bank. It is the minister who authorizes those who are recommended. In fact, the Minister of Local Government and Regional Development has been doing this all these decades. Nothing has changed with respect to how the procedural matters with respect to appointments of town clerks, deputy town clerks, city treasurer, city engineer. Nothing has changed.
For the evening news, Alexis Rodney.
Meanwhile, acting town clerk Carol Suba called off an official council meeting which was scheduled to be held today after Royston King sought to perform the duties of the town clerk. Jomo Paul reports.
The Drama City Council continued today with Royston King occupying the seat meant for a town clerk and Carol Suba calling off the statutory meeting, which nevertheless continued in her absence.
Yeah, like past people.
I ask you to be
members of the public officers, councillors all. The legal town clerk of Georgetown is here presiding over this statutory meeting.
Child's Play fittingly describes what occurred in the halls of the council today when the council met for its statutory meeting. The explicit bickering and exchange of descriptive titles continued until Carol Suba decided to end the meeting and stormed out of the boardroom.
Bring the chair and show me decided. Bring the chair. You can't decide over anything here.
There is only one town clerk here.
You're not the town clerk.
Ryan Suba.
You're the town clerk.
This town clerk, Ryan Suba, would not be paying the council's 18%.
It did not end there, however, as the meeting continued on the instruction of Royston King.
And there was a unanimous vote. Mr. Royston King, who is in the chambers here, I would like to congratulate him. And hope that he has the strength and fortitude to carry on in not too easy circumstances.
Today's developments comes in the heels of admonishment from the local government ministry over the activities at the City Council over the past weeks. For the evening news, Jomo Paul.
City Mayor Hamilton Green and his deputy continued attempts to undermine the authority of acting town clerk Carol Suba as he organized a public meeting to enlist support for the council's candidate for the job. Details in this report.
As pressure mounts on the city mayor to vacate his post, Hamilton Green said he will not be vacating his position anytime soon.
Well, a certain leader made the mistake of getting his council to resign. And I'm making a mistake. I'm also acting. They can't provoke me. They can't threaten me. As Council Chase may tell you, a certain man was ugly and thin. Comes here with certain tobacco bites. Well, I was in this thing since 1953.
All right then.
And those punks can't frighten me.
Green made his disclosure at a public meeting organized to enlist support for the council's position on Carol Suba.
In 1994, they had the IMC. Her gracious Majesty Queen Elizabeth was coming, so they put a lot of money into this IMC. To fool the people of Georgetown. They had all the money to campaign. They only got 27%. So, they're going to punish the citizens of Georgetown for not voting for them. That has been an ongoing process since 1994.
Green said the proposed IMCs were a failure in the past and this time around will be no different. Former Mayor Van Will Jordan said that despite the government's best efforts, they will not take control of the city as is their aim.
We want to alert you that it is the plan of the government to engage their special forces, their special individuals, and pay them large sums of money to do little or nothing in the communities. You must guard against that.
For the evening news, Jumo Paul.
Now for some news from the courts. Bisham Mohammed joins us now to report that Carolyn Lynch was free today.
Former Mrs. South America Carolyn Lynch was this morning exonerated by Chief Magistrate Priyastine Ryan Bihari after the prosecution yet again failed to provide sufficient evidence against her during the preliminary inquiry into her husband's murder. After listening to the testimonies of 17 witnesses during the inquiry into the murder of former Swiss House owner Farouk Razak, the Chief Magistrate ruled that there was no need for the matter to be heard before a judge and jury. Lynch was accused of killing Razak in 2007, but the charge was thrown out of the magistrate's court in 2008 by the then Magistrate Gordon Gilhouse, after there was not sufficient evidence against the beauty queen. In 2010, the Director of Public Prosecution, Shalimar Ali Haq, had recommended that a murder charges be reinstituted against her. Despite the issuance of a wanted bulletin for her arrest, she had managed to evade the police for at least 3 years until January of 2014, when she turned herself into the police in the company of her lawyer. During the second preliminary inquiry, several persons testified, including the former beauty queen, daughter, niece, and personal trainer. They all testified in favor of the woman, who definitely had an alibi at the time of her husband's murder. According to information received, Lynch was in the company of her daughter and niece, and more so, the personal trainer was reportedly on the telephone with her, making arrangements for a training session. Bisham Mohammed, The Evening News.
More news ahead. Stay tuned. This is The Evening News. Welcome back. This is The Evening News on TVG. The police in Essequibo are investigating a shooting incident which took place at Hampton Court on the Essequibo coast early Monday morning when a man shot at his estranged wife during a fight over their children. The incident occurred at about 7:30. On the run is 37-year-old Kumar, only name given, from Three Fens village. Meanwhile, the injured Asha Singh, aged 24 of Hampton Court, narrowly escaped death at her mother's house where the incident occurred. According to information reaching this newscast, Singh and Kumar have been divorced, but they are presently caught up in a custody battle for the two children. Information revealed that Kumar allegedly visited Singh Monday morning at her mother's home in Hampton Court, where he demanded to see his children. Singh refused and an argument ensued, resulting in Kumar firing off 4 shots from his firearm. One of the bullets grazed Singh to her head. Kumar subsequently escaped. Singh's mother rushed her to the Sudley Public Hospital, where she was treated and sent home. According to information reaching this newscast, the couple usually have constant fights. In this report, you'll hear that the former Commissioner of Police and Apt News Member of Parliament, Winston Felix, today said that the office of the Police Commissioner in Guyana was being politically influenced.
Their Partnership for National Unity member Winston Felix made this disclosure at a specially convened press conference at the party's headquarters on Hatfield Street, Georgetown. The former top cop said that most of the decisions taken by the police commissioner have some degree of political intervention.
I can see the shift that has taken place, which is inconsistent with the police thinking. And that shift could only come from political direction. I don't see any commissioner now not functioning as they should, free of political interference. Can't happen in these days.
When asked about the appointment of Clifton Hicken as a division commander, Felix reiterated that the Commissioner of Police would have made his decision and shifting to suit the effective running of the force.
We from APNU would like to see the best decisions made for the management of the Guyana Police Force. But we don't want to influence the Commissioner nor criticize him for his decision in placement, because these are decisions he has to make. The country cannot exist without the Guyana Police Force. And we can't malign the Guyana Police Force. What we as a political party has to do is to ensure that the bad points of the Guyana Police Force are remedied, and those are the things which are not being done. We are all human beings and we have faults. Our problem is that the bad points are not being remedied. So the force go on shooting and shooting innocent people until it gets home. Then somebody would wake up and you know, we should have been doing this a long time ago. Too late.
He also noted that the recent shooting come at a time when the Guyana Police Force is attempting to foster good relationship with the public, while noting that it would be a horrendous job if the force does not get its act together. Bisham Mohammed, The Evening News.
Meanwhile, a Partnership for National Unity APNU this morning called on the Guyana Police Force to speed up their investigation into the shooting of an East Penitence teen while strongly condemning the act. Bisham Mohammed reports.
It didn't start now. I had my share to deal with. Commissioners before me had their share to deal with. Commissioners after me had their share to deal with. The problem is, we got to come out and say it wrong.
That was former Commissioner of Police Winston Felix condemning the shooting of 15-year-old Alex Griffith. Felix, during a press briefing at his party headquarters, stated that the matter should have been wrapped up and some form of penalty meted out to whomever is found culpable.
I see no reason for upwards of a week going into two, that this matter, one, can't be concluded and some positive action be taken. Because you have the disciplinary side, you have the criminal side. And action, some sort of action by now ought to have been taken. There is no statement from the police, nothing from the government, and at least the family of the victim ought to have been treated with a little more courtesy and respect by the hierarchy of the Guyana Police Force.
He also questioned the reason for the teenager's arrest and believes that the necessary procedures were not followed.
Why is he arrested? Let's go back to section 17(1) and the subsections associated with section 17 to see if there is anything there which suggests that for questioning you needed to arrest that 15-year-old. And secondly, if you apply the Juvenile Offenders Act, a juvenile ought to be questioned in the presence of a parent or guardian or someone who is of the same sex of the child. Should a member of the Guyana Police Force be playing Russian roulette? It is offensive to the Police Discipline Act for a trained man to be skylarking and playing Russian roulette with a human life.
He has since called for more training of police ranks in the execution of their duties.
APNU has consistently been urging the Guyana Police Force to train its members, to have improved training.
The Shadow Home Affairs Minister recalled several other cases where youths were either shot and killed or injured by lawmen and justice was not served. Alex Griffith, a resident of East Le Penitent's squatting area, was allegedly shot to his mouth by a police rank who had accused him of being a witness to a robbery in the area. The incident occurred during a response to a report of robbery with aggravation committed on a relative of the said rank. Bisha Mohammed, The Evening News.
The governments of Chile and Guyana today entered into a development partnership aimed at significantly reducing extreme poverty with emphasis on the rural areas. More from Gabriela Patran.
It didn't start now. I had my share to deal with. Commissioners before me had their share to deal with. Commissioners after me had their share to deal with. The problem is, we got to come out and say it wrong.
That was former Commissioner of Police Winston Felix condemning the shooting of 15-year-old Alex Griffith. Felix, during a press briefing at his party headquarters, stated that the matter should have been wrapped up and some form of penalty meted out to whomever is found culpable.
I see no reason for upwards of a week going into 2 that this matter, 1, can't be concluded and some positive action be taken, because you have the disciplinary side, you have the criminal side, and action, some sort of action by now ought to have been taken. There is no statement from the police, nothing from the government, and at least the family of the victim ought to have been treated with a little more courtesy and respect by the hierarchy of the Guyana Police Force.
He also questioned the reason for the teenager's arrest and believes that the necessary procedures were not followed.
Why is he arrested? Let's go back to section 17(1) and the subsections associated with section 17 to see if there is anything there which suggests that for questioning you needed to arrest that 15-year-old. And secondly, if you apply the Juvenile Offenders Act, a juvenile ought to be questioned in the presence of a parent or guardian or someone who is of the same sex of the child. Should a member of the Guyana Police Force be playing Russian roulette? It is offensive to the Police Discipline Act for a trained man to be skylarking and playing Russian roulette with a human life.
He has since called for more training of police ranks in the execution of their duties.
APNU has consistently been urging the Guyana Police Force to train its members, to have improved training.
The Shadow Home Affairs Minister recalled several other cases where youths were either shot and killed or injured by lawmen and justice was not served. Alex Griffith, a resident of East Le Penitent's squatting area, was allegedly shot to his mouth by a police rank who had accused him of being a witness to a robbery in the area. The incident occurred during a response to a report of robbery with aggravation committed on a relative of the said rank. Bisha Mohammed, The Evening News.
The Caribbean Examination Council, CXC, has undertaken a new initiative to introduce the 5 new Cape Generation subjects. Guyana was chosen among several other Caribbean countries earlier today by the examination body for the launching of the Agriculture Science, one of the core subjects at the Theatre Guild earlier today. More from Alexis Rodney.
It was an awe-inspiring moment for educators and students alike who congregated in the main auditorium of the Theatre Guild for the launch of the new 5 Cape Generation subjects. Guyana was chosen by the examination body as the venue for the launch of the agriculture syllabus, which will form part of the teaching curriculum for the 6th form come September of this year. Assistant Registrar of CXC Cleveland Sam, in his opening remarks, said that while the subject's areas are new to the Cape system, the outcome will be most welcomed. He said educators across the Caribbean have already embraced the innovation, pointing out that it is a boost in education for the Caribbean's children.
And this is the message from one Ricardo Roberts, who posted on our Facebook page, and I quote, "In yesterday's edition of the Searchlight newspaper in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, I read that CXC is adding entrepreneurship as a subject. In my opinion, this will be the most significant one that your organization would have made in this generation. CXC has put in motion a vital tool in the center of education system that has power also to alter the psyche of a generation and to ultimately transform our economies.
He pointed to the other subject areas to be offered, which include tourism, entrepreneurship, performing arts, and physical education and sports. The Caribbean Agriculture Research Development Institute, CARDI, has over the years been instrumental in the successes of students writing agriculture science at the Caribbean Secondary Education Certificate. Since coming on board in 2008 and offering awards for Best CXC Agriculture Student, Guyana has been taking first place. CARDI's scientific officer, Mr. Norman Gibson, was delighted that the subject could have been launched in Guyana. According to him, a better country could not be chosen.
Some people think that we fixed the event, but we haven't. These students over the years have been outstanding in this subject. So CARDI has had a long history of this kind of involvement. We are happy to be associated with it. We therefore commend CXC for this new initiative, in that we think that the CAPE syllabus is one that prepares what we consider to be the new agriculturalists, young people who are not just savvy in terms of science, but are also savvy in terms of ICTs, in terms of digital media, which is another CXC initiative. And we think that it is important that these things come together in Caribbean individuals, so that together we can tackle the very real problems that we have in terms of food and nutrition security.
Guyana is the second country in the Caribbean to launch the 5 new CAPE generation subjects. Barbados last week had launched the tourism program. Trinidad and Tobago will on Thursday, May 15, introduce the entrepreneurship subject. St. Lucia will the following day launch the performing arts, while Jamaica will launch physical education and sports. For the Evening News, I am Alexis Rodney.
Meanwhile, Education Minister Priya Manik-Chand today said Guyana's education system is on par with every other country in the region and as such is capable of launching any of the other 4 CAPE generation subjects. More from Alexis Rodney.
The Education Minister was at the time addressing the audience at the launch of the 5 new CAPE generation subjects at the Theatre Guild on Monday. The minister told the gathering that the education system in Guyana has made significant strides over the years. She is confident that it will continue to progress under the current leadership.
When I looked at the other subjects, entrepreneurship, performing arts, physical education and sport, and tourism, I realized that any single one of those subjects could have been justifiably launched here because of what our country is doing, what our education system is doing, and what we need to produce.
Her interaction with the Caribbean Examination Council has revealed the consciousness of changing times, which has helped the examination body to focus its attention accordingly.
And I think the launch of these 5 new courses really speaks to them making the effort to meet the needs of the Caribbean today, as well as the needs that are determined will be relevant in the future. And for that, I'd like to say warmest congratulations to the leadership of CXC, as well as to the teachers and other personnel who were involved in creating these new subjects for our children to write.
Minister Manik-Chand said that with the introduction of the new programs to the Caribbean Advanced Proficiency Examination, CXC is in fact preparing the youth for sustained economic viability. Tourism as one of the subject areas, she noted, will help Caribbean countries to move up the economic scale since the industry is very relevant at this time. In areas of agriculture, Manik-Chand said Caribbean countries will now have the ability to provide for itself and the world to a larger extent.
CXC has really done what is absolutely necessary in our region today. I'm very pleased to hear this is not, and I know that this is not the end. There's a constant examination of where we are as a people in the region, where we will be, where we are likely to be 10 years, 20 years from now, and then a strategic planning that uses the resources of our Caribbean. You saw how many persons stand here today as being persons who were fully involved in getting this done, using the resources of our Caribbean to meet those needs today, as well as the needs that we envision will be relevant 10, 20 years from now.
The minister declared that Guyana remains supportive of every effort made by CARICOM. She said the Caribbean Examination Council will forever remain an institution that epitomizes how regional bodies can work together. For the Evening News, I'm Alexis Rodney.
More news still ahead. Stay tuned. This is the Evening News. Welcome back. This is the Evening News. Now for some news from the courts. Derek Raymond of Friendship Buxton was today remanded after he appeared in the Georgetown Magistrates Court before Chief Magistrate Priya Sinarayan Bihari to answer the charge of possession of an unlicensed firearm. After police ranks received information from credible sources of the defendant having an unlicensed firearm, they staked out at the Numprel area and noticed the accused acting in a suspicious manner. A search was then carried out, after which a .32 revolver was found in a man's waist above his left pocket. The defendant, who was convicted previously for simple larceny and has 3 pending robbery cases at the Providence Magistrates Court, was refused bail and is scheduled to appear at the Vigilance Magistrates Court on May 16, 2014. In this story, you'll hear that Guyana on Saturday exceeded its target for the first crop when over 300,000 tons of rice was yielded. More from Alexis Rodney.
Agriculture Minister Dr. Leslie Ramsamy made the official announcement today as he delivered the feature address at the ceremony to launch new subjects in Cape. According to the minister, it was the first for Guyana or any other country within the Caribbean to make such an achievement in any one crop.
Indeed, going back 50 years ago, any claim that any country would have the capacity to produce 300,000 tons in a year would have been treated as utopian dream.
Dr. Ramsamy said doubts were rife 10 years ago when a target of 520,000 tons per year was set. He said the country was able to produce some 535,000 tons of rice, more than 5 years ahead of schedule.
And 600,000 tons, which was thought to be an impossibility. Now that we have achieved 300,000 tons in the first crop, and still some time to go, 600,000 tons in 2014 is a real possibility. And I'm putting my head on the block that sometime in early December, I will make the announcement that Guyana has exceeded 600,000 tons.
Ramsamy said the achievements are all possible since there is a high presence of science and technology in Guyana. He said that the availability of technology must be used to transform the agriculture sector in the country. According to the minister, the rice industry contributes about 5% of Guyana's gross domestic product and accounts for more than US $240 million in export earnings. Some 40,000 Guyanese directly depend on the industry for their livelihood. The industry also provides employment for more than 20,000 people. In terms of food security, rice has helped to secure Guyana's status as a food-secured country. For the Evening News, I'm Alexis Rodney.
Over the next 8 months, burial grounds across the country will see a massive cleanup and restoration campaign being conducted by the Ministry of Housing and Water in collaboration with the local government ministry. Details in this report.
Under the Community Infrastructure Improvement Program (CIP), burial grounds in communities will see major works being done in and around them. This is according to Housing and Water Minister Irfan Ali. He stated that CIP will fall under the management of the Community Road Improvement Project (CRIP), and this program will last for 8 months. Ali told residents at Mahaika as he commissioned new roads on the CRIP that all of us must be ashamed of the way the burial grounds are kept across the country. He said that the government has decided that they will bring dignity to the burial grounds because it is an important aspect of community life. He noted that an inventory of all burial grounds will be done and issues such as exits and entrance will be a top priority for the grounds. Under SIP, community infrastructure such as playfields, health centers, and market compounds will also be repaired. With infrastructure in communities being repaired, this would improve communication and collaboration among the Neighborhood Democratic Council (NDC) residents and groups within the community. For the evening news, I'm Gabriela Patram.
8 outstanding women were awarded for their contributions to the development of Guyana by the Ministry of Labour, Human Services and Social Security. Additionally, a women magazine was also launched. Details in this report.
Guyanese women who have contributed to the advancement and well-being of other women were on Saturday evening honored for their services by the Human Services and Social Security Ministry. They were recognized at a simple ceremony at the Guyana International Conference Center, Lindlendal, Georgetown. Present at the event were Prime Minister Samuel Hines and Mistress Yvonne Hines, Education Minister Priya Manichan, and other distinguished women who have and are still playing a role in Guyana's development. Receiving awards were Mistress Patricia Ben, Mother of Public Works Minister Robeson Ben, Presidential Advisor and Governance Guild Teixeira, Member of Parliament Indrani Chandrapal, Human Services and Social Security Ministry Permanent Secretary Lauren Baird, Human Services and Social Security Ministry former Manager Document Center Yvonne Stevenson, Child Care and Protection Agency Director Anne Green, Women Affairs Bureau Administrator Himwati Lagan, and Assistant Chief Labor Occupational Safety and Health Officer Lydia Green, who would have served the Labour Ministry for many years. During the ceremony, the ministry launched a magazine entitled International Women's Day, which provides details of the struggles of Guyanese women from 1955 to present, and the vision of the ministry towards bettering the lives of Guyana's children, women, elderly, homeless, as well as eliminating violence. Speaking at the event team celebrating the achievements of Guyanese women, Human Services Ministry Jennifer Webster said that it's not often that persons take time out to recognize the contributions of women.
Women hold 1/3 of the positions in our cabinet, and this is commendable. Today, our women have access to greater services, social services in our country, and that has been through our government's continued commitment to support the advancement of women in Guyana. Our women have secured economic independence. Many of them have been able to access training programs for microcredit schemes. So today, as we have embraced this opportunity to pay tribute to those women who have demonstrated their commitment and dedication in whatever field of endeavor they have engaged in, we must recognize their roles.
At the event, there were also cultural presentations in the form of poetry and dances from the National Dance Company, the National School of Dance, the Guyana Hindu Dharmic Sabha, and the Classic Dance Company. For the evening news, I'm Gabriela Patram.
Back in the courts, Clement James, a resident and farmer of Karasabai Village, South Rupununi, was today remanded to prison after he appeared in the Georgetown Magistrates Court before Chief Magistrate Priya Sinarayan Bihari to answer to the charge of trafficking of narcotics. The charge alleged that on May 11, 2014, at Yellow Shop, Tabutinya, Central Rupununi, a search was conducted on the defendant by ranks that were patrolling the area after they noticed the accused acting in a suspicious manner. Upon carrying out the search, they found a plastic bag in his left pocket, which was filled with cannabis. The 20-year-old man was remanded to prison and is scheduled to reappear at the Georgetown Magistrates Court on May 23, 2014. In case you've just joined us, you're watching the evening news. Stay tuned, more news still ahead. Welcome back. This is the evening news on TVG. Now some news from the region. A Bermuda government-appointed task force is recommended a decriminalization of marijuana in the overseas British territory and that the government should take immediate action to enable access to medical cannabis with a prescription. The Cannabis Reform Committee, in its 137-page report, notes that the current drug policy is wasting money and resources on harming people's lives since career options become limited once a criminal record is established. It said cannabis prohibition is not working. Bermuda's National Security Minister Michael Dunkley tabled a report in the Parliament last Friday, and among the recommendations are the introduction of a less punitive warning system and an end to racial profiling in the legal system, increasing the legal age for alcohol consumption to 21, and increased spending of cannabis education and prevention. Caribbean countries have been discussing the idea of decriminalizing marijuana for medical purposes, and a report on the issue is to be tabled at the July summit of regional leaders in Antigua. Internationally, East African leaders and China formally signed agreements yesterday for the construction of a new multi-billion-dollar railway linking the Kenyan port of Mombasa to Nairobi and running on to neighboring states. The deals were signed in Nairobi on the last stage of an African tour by the Chinese Premier Lee Keqiang. Also, Kenya's President Uhuru Kenyatta had already signed up to the deal during his state visit to Beijing last year. The new standard gauge line will supplement a slower narrow gauge network that now only runs to Uganda, whereas the new line is designed to go on to Rwanda and South Sudan, part of an effort to cut the hefty costs of trade between East African nations, which mainly rely on poor roads and a rickety narrow gauge line built in the 19th century. In case you've just joined us, you're watching the evening news. We now take a look at your bridge reports. The Damrar Harbour Bridge will be closed on Tuesday, May 13 at 14 hours 30 for a period of 1.5 hours, and the Berbice River Bridge will be closed on Tuesday, May 13 at 15 hours 30 for a period of 1.5 hours. And for those of you using the ferry service, the Perique and Supanam ferries will be departing at 3 a.m. on Tuesday, May 13, 2014. Both ferries are also slated to depart their respective locations at 15 hours on Tuesday, May 13, 2014. Join us after the break for sport, sponsored by MacCorp. This is the Evening News. Welcome back. Now for a look at sport, but first the headlines. Anguilla, TNT and Team Coco confirmed for Independence 3 stage. Posad wins Powerade cycling main event. Independence Cup players may face sanctions, says GCB, and Simmons leads the Mumbai Indians to victory over Sunrisers Hyderabad. Of course, our sportcast comes to the kind compliments of MacCorp. Welcome back. Now for the details. We start off with some cycling news. Riders from Anguilla, Trinidad and Tobago and Team Coco have confirmed their participation in this year's Independence 3 stage built for this weekend. This is according to national cycling coach Hassan Mohammed. The event, being held for the 32nd year in succession, will start on Saturday and end on Sunday. National cycling coach Hassan Mohammed, speaking to this newscast off camera on Monday, revealed that 5 riders have registered from Anguilla, 9 from Trinidad and Tobago's Heatwave, and 9 from Team Coco. Anguilla team comprises Benjamin Phillips, Elroy Lord, Russell Elcock, and the Guyanese pair Sherwin Osborne and Vinish Narain. Heatwave team is made up of Guy Costa, James Hadid, defending champion Jamal Eastman, Jason Perryman, Joshua Kelly, Jesse Kelly, Alain Smart, and Guyanese Marlon Williams and Jude Bentley. Team Coco, a USA-based team, has been recruiting Guyanese riders over the years, and the team consists of Junior Niles, Reynard Jeffrey, Hamza Eastman, Michael Anthony, Stefano Husbands, Darren Matthews, Jamal John, Christopher Holder, and Mauricio Robeo. Mohammed said that 40 riders have so far registered for the event, adding that the closing date for registration is Wednesday, May 14. When action pedals off on Saturday at 7 hours 30, the riders will compete from the Curverton Police Station to Alexander Street, New Amsterdam. At 14 hours on the same day, the cyclists will start at Rosignol and finish at Carifesta Avenue, while the third and final stage will be held on Sunday, with action starting at 8 hours at Caracara Linden and ending on Homestretch Avenue. Meanwhile, Mohammed reminded cyclists and officials that transportation to Berbice will leave the Sport Ministry headquarters on Main Street at 11 hours on Friday. Meanwhile, Robin Prasad warmed up for the upcoming 32nd Annual Independence 3 stage by copying top honours in a feature 35-lap schoolboys and invitational race of the annual Powerade 11 race program, sponsored by Banks DIH Limited on Saturday at the inner circuit of the National Park. Details in this report. Prasad called on all his experience to outsprint his fellow riders, winning the race in 1 hour, 14 minutes, 11.15 seconds. He also copped one of the 8 prime prizes on offer. Christopher Holder returned to the podium with a second-place finish, while Godfrey Polidor, Orville Hines, Marlon Williams and Paul de Nobrega rounded off the top 6 finishers in that order. Williams and Reynaud Jeffrey won 2 prime prizes each, while Alonso Graves, Polidor and Alonso Ambrose copped 1 each. Other winners on the day included Avish Ramlakan in the 12 to 14 boys and girls, Junior Niles in the veterans under 50, Lyndon Blackman in the veterans over 50, Monty Paris in the veterans over 60, Michael Anthony in the juveniles, Reynaud Jeffrey in the mountain bikes, Sherwin Sampson in the BMX boys 6 to 9 and BMX 9 to 12, Amo Gomes in the BMX 12 to 14, and Brighton John in the BMX Open. At the presentation ceremony which followed, Chief Organizer and National Coach Hassan Mohammed lauded the riders for an incident-free day of racing. He complimented Banks DIH Limited for once again sponsoring the activity, noting that corporate support is critical for the development of the sport.
And I could safely say for the last 2 years, Banks DIH, under the brand name Powerade and Malta, was giving me 5 races. This is the second race for the year. And we have 3 more because every month we will get one from Powerade. We got to spread our wing.
Banks DIH Limited's outdoor event manager Mortimer Stewart said the reason for using the Powerade drink for the sponsorship was to enlighten cyclists on the benefits of using the product, which he said is an excellent source of rehydration.
On behalf of Banks, I must tell you thank you for once again participating and coming out in your numbers. Continue to support Banks DIH in all your future endeavors. We want to congratulate all the winners, all the participants. We want to thank you for being with this program. It's indeed under the Powerade brand. It's a very good brand throughout the country. Continue to support the brand, especially Powerade for you. It's a replenisher. It give you back that energy that you were lost during your cycling.
The event was the last race before the commencement of the 32nd Annual Independence 3-stage cycling meet set for this weekend. Now for some cricket news. Players who take part in the unofficial Independence Cup T20 competition may face possible sanctions, as the Guyana Cricket Board has confirmed its decision not to give its approval to the event. The local governing body deemed the tournament unauthorized and unapproved, and is also claiming that the tournament does not fall on the list of approved cricket for Guyana as endorsed by the West Indies Cricket Board. As a consequence, players are likely to face hefty sanctions, including bans, according to a spokesman from the GCB. Apart from players, clubs, associations, venues and officials can also face penalties, a spokesman who wished to remain anonymous said. The competition, which is a collaborative effort of the Berbice Cricket Board and the Berbice Chamber of Commerce and Development Association, is slated to be held on May 25 at the Albion Community Centre ground. Proceeds from the event will go towards charitable organizations such as cricket clubs, orphanages, schools and health-related activities, among others. Finally, Lendl Simmons and Ambati Rayudu made half-centuries as the Mumbai Indians easily defeated the Sunrisers Hyderabad by 7 wickets in match 36 of the Pepsi IPL. Chasing 158, Mumbai Indians made 160 for 3 with 8 balls remaining, with Simmons and Rayudu both hitting 68. They added 130 for the second wicket to set up the victory. Earlier, Aaron Finch top-scored with 68 and David Warner blasted an unbeaten 55 from 31 balls to spur Sunrisers Hyderabad to 157 for 3. Here now are the highlights of the run chase.
Yeah, highlights of Lendl Simmons. Brilliant at the start. Over from Irfan Pathan. He and Ambati Rayudu certainly found the boundary on a number of occasions. Particularly severe on anything short from the spinners, stayed back in the box and favoured that mid-wicket area. There's a little bit of luck here and there, but when you bat so well, you deserve it, Wilco.
Yeah, you do, and Irfan could not get it right. He just couldn't get it right tonight. There's another one, you see Simmons and Raidu, they just took a liking even to Dale Steyn. At that pace, you get a slight edge, you're gone.
Did right. Raidu came into this game with the most runs, and he leaves with the most runs for the Mumbai Indians as well. He's looked very impressive, and one of the turning points of this game was a drop catch right here. Enriquez came around and all of a sudden left it, and then bang. Rahul let it go, and that was a turning point in this game. And then Raidu just finished it off. He took home the Mumbai Indians. So it's a good pitch here in Hyderabad. And all of a sudden, Simmons hitting that through the leg side, another boundary. And some poor fielding from the Sunrisers. And then finally tried to be a bit too tricky. Kumar picking up the wicket. And then all of a sudden, it was just a matter of closing the gate for the Mumbai Indians. Raidu did it, but missed out. Gone for 68. It was a lucky catch there for Moses Enriquez. More of a reflex action. But he certainly got them in the right position, Raidu. And the Mumbai Indians, it was more about just sort of playing a couple of shots at the end and then flicking it through the leg side. And that was it. The Mumbai Indians winning this game and winning their third game in the competition. Yeah, celebrations won't be too large, I can assure you of that. They know what lies ahead. Rohit Sharma said, one game at a time. Well, we've done the right thing tonight and won this first one. The Sunrisers put 157 for 3 on the board in their 20 overs. Mumbai Indians did it quite comfortably in the end, winning by 7 wickets.
The Pepsi IPL will continue tomorrow with the Chennai Super Kings playing the Rajasthan Royals at 6 hours 30 and the Royal Challengers Bangalore against the Delhi Daredevils at 10 hours 30. And with that, we've come to the end of sport, which was sponsored by Marcorp. Of course, you can find these and many more stories in tomorrow's edition of the Guyana Times. And here's an invitation to join us on TVG Channel 28 and on Radio Guyana Inc. 89.3 in Essequibo, 89.5 in Georgetown Environs, and 89.7 in Berbice and Unicary, Suriname. With that, we've come to the end of the evening news for today, Monday, May 12, 2014. I'm Avinash Ramzan on behalf of all of us here. It's bye for now.